Hipsters. We all love to talk about them. Let's keep it real. Even if we don't like hipsters, we love to have these long-ass conversations. And they always like to do things that are good for the environment. They talk about buying the free trade chocolate or the coffee and make sure that they're doing things in an ethical way. They love American apparel because the clothes are made here in the United States. But how many slaves does the average hipster employ? Wow, did you ever think about that? An organization known as Made in a Free World did think about that, and they realized that the average hipster employs 27 slaves a day, even though they are doing their best to be as ethical as possible. Now, they raise awareness, Made in a Free World raises awareness on how consumers support illegal slave operations with purchases they make. Now, they concede that it's nearly impossible to make 100% ethical purchases, considering all the outsourcing our companies have done and considering how much cheap labor our companies rely on. They say the average hipster does employ 27 slaves a day through their purchasing power. There's an estimated 35 million slaves in the world. That's according to the Walk Free Foundation. And that includes child soldiers, people forced into prostitution, child brides. Being smart and ethical about your purchases is very, very difficult. Now, let me give you a statement from the organization. Here's what they had to say. This person who values independent thinking, progressive politics, art, music, creativity, intelligence, and tight-fitting jeans is unknowingly wearing and using products that are creating abusive environments for people globally. But admittedly, it's tough to buy ethical because so many of the brands we grow to know, love, and trust simply don't uphold standards that align with our personal ethos. Now, how can hipsters free the slaves? That was something that they also touched on. Let's take a quick look at the photo. It shows the difference between knowing where you buy your items and not knowing where they come from. If hipsters purchase Made in a Free World companies, they invest in supply chains that protect against forced and child labor. This preferred purchasing trickles down to disrupt illicit markets deep in the supply chain. So this is all very complicated, and for anyone who thinks that they're buying things ethically, consider the fact that you are likely to have a smartphone that was made in China in very unsafe working conditions. So we're all guilty of this. It's not just hipsters. I think that the organization just wanted to make a point saying that regardless of how aware you are, whether you like it or not, you are employing slaves. Hannah, what do you think about this? Make your point.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it's really easy to pick on hipsters because they got the beard and the beanie and their natural deodorant. Like, it's really easy for us to pick on them.
Yeah.
But if these are people who are already conscious about how they're purchasing their products and wanting to be sustainable and ethical, and they're employing 27 slaves, what this should make us think of, okay, those of us who aren't, wearing or American apparel or whatever, how many slaves are we employing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bigger issue here, is all these unethical business practices that are going on that we're all supporting, whether we're trying to be as conscious as we can about it. And that to me is like a bigger issue and something that we have to tackle.
That's a great point. Hank, what do you think?
I completely agree with you, because at first when I looked at this, I got a little defensive. I was like, well, that's not really fair. It's kind of like.
Do you consider yourself a hipster?
No. I mean, I have some tendencies. I don't take on the brand. I don't take on the ownership of Hipster.
Fabulous outfit you're wearing.
Thank you. Well, I mean, honest, I'm sitting here actually kind of guilty, because I'll be honest with you. This came from kind of a boutique in New York, and it cost quite a bit of money.
But it looks great.
It looks great, but I'm
really
sitting
great.
here being like, God, how many hipsters how many slaves am I employing right now?
Yeah.
And when I thought about this, I thought about the unfairness of like the butterfly effect. If I sit down to have a piece of chicken that's not free range, am I responsible for someone's slave trade? If you buy a diamond that that's unaccounted for, did you just kill 20 kids in Africa? And you can't. You really have to try to do the best that you can with what you know.
Yeah.
But I think kudos to the people who created this chart, because they really are bringing light to a global problem. And for those of us that are fortunate to live in a first world country, we're in a position to be able to alleviate that.
We can definitely vote with our dollars, but sometimes it's a very discouraging thing to do, especially when you consider companies here in the United States that you might love, and then you find out that their CEOs are funding politicians that are unsavory, to say the least. So this is a really complicated issue. This is not meant to pass judgment on anyone. It's just meant to enlighten people about what you can do with your purchasing power. So what is your guilty pleasure? hipsters might have a guilty pleasure of like free trade coffee, which is delicious, by the way. Okay, but what about you, Hannah? What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure is Nutella. I eat so much Nutella. I just sit down with a spoon and I'll finish the entire thing. Like, no, I'm not talking about like the regular ones that you buy at the supermarket. I'm talking about like the Costco size one. I can just go through it. But so I looked into it because I was like, oh my God, how many slaves am I employing? And I was looking at the effects of Nutella, and it's with the cocoa beans deforestation and like displacing orangutans in the forest, and then the hazelnuts are a huge source of child labor.
Yep.
And now I feel really guilty. I mean, my hips will appreciate it, but now I feel really bad about it.
No more Nutella for you. What about you, Hank?
Well, I travel a good deal. I fly a lot, and in the past year, I've kind of upgraded all of my luggage, and because it just makes the experience less hellish for me. So I bought a nice like Salvatore Ferragamo duffel, which I got on sale with like cashback rewards from my Discover card. Did not pay full price at the department store, but it makes me feel good to have that because traveling is such a miserable industry now.
Yes, it is.
And then when I fly, this is kind of my thing too. I always hunt down at Tivana. Tivana has stuff all over airports, and so I like have my like Salvatore Ferragamo duffel, then my like whatever, you know, because they have 13.
You're so fucking fabulous.
So
you are so fucking fabulous.
It's what I do to make myself feel just a little better while I'm like in this metal tube. That's my guilty pleasure. Yeah.
God, I feel so not fabulous. My guilty pleasure is donuts at midnight. Okay? Like I'm laying there, like cuddling with my boyfriend, and I'll just be like, you know, I ate really healthy all day. I deserve a buttermilk donut. And so we walk over to a donut shop right next to our apartment, and we, instead of just getting one donut for each of us, we end up getting 4. It's just disgusting.
For each of you?
There's nothing wrong. Don't shame her.
No, I'm saying I want one. If you have extras, please bring me one.
Donuts are so
They
good.
are.
They're so good.
But they're like light and fluffy. You
No,
can have
they're
as
not,
many
girl.
as you want.
I'm not into the yeast donuts. I'm into the fucking cake donuts.
This is the one with
Okay?
bacon on it, right? Bacon and like
I don't like
jalapenos? No?
I don't do the bacon, but I do like the dense, cakey donuts.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones I like.
Yeah.
I don't like the fluffy ones.
Right.
I mean, I'll eat
crispy,
them if I
creamy
have
ones,
to. But
Yeah.
anyway, what's your guilty pleasure? Comment in the section below. Let us know. It could be something as fabulous as what Hank bought. It
Cup
could
of
be,
tea? What? Just a cup of tea.
And I love how Hannah and Anna both like fatty foods for their guilty pleasures. Anyway, share your stories below. We love hearing from you guys, and we'll see you soon.